Hi, I'm Bridget, and welcome to my kitchen. This is my cottage kitchen, and today we're making summer desserts. Simplicity is the theme today, and the two recipes that we're going to make couldn't be easier. We'll make a no-churn ice cream that's flavored with ginger and has a toffee crunch on top. And we're making a classic ginger cookie. Both are delicious desserts on their own, but then we're going to combine them into an ice cream sandwich. If you can whip cream and have a freezer, then you can make homemade ice cream. No ice cream maker required. We're going to start with 2 cups of heavy cream, that's 35%. And we'll whip that to stiff peaks. Once the cream has been whipped to stiff peaks, then we're going to take 1 300 ml can of sweetened condensed milk. To that, we will add 2 tablespoons of fancy molasses, and just half a teaspoon of ginger. If you really love ginger, this recipe could take a full teaspoon of ginger. So we'll just mix those together a little bit. Then we're going to add it to the cream mixture and keep whipping until it gets nice and thick. So this is the basic ice cream recipe, and really you can add anything to it that you'd like, or you could leave it plain. We're going to add a crunchy toffee bar, but first let's whip it again till it's well combined and nice and thick. I'm using 2 of these crispy caramel bars, and I'm just going to chop them into pieces. And we'll put about 2/3 actually in the ice cream mixture, and we'll save a little bit to sprinkle on top. Okay, so I'm just going to stir that in to make sure it's well distributed. There we go. And then I have a large bread pan, and I have lined it with parchment paper. This is a 9 by 5 inch bread pan. And I'm just going to pour this mixture in so you can see how thick it is. And then I will just even out the top. And sprinkle over our remaining toffee bar. And it's really just so it looks pretty on top. And that is it. Homemade ice cream is that easy. The hardest part is waiting for it to set. It has to be in the freezer for a minimum of 6 hours. I think every baker should have a recipe for a classic ginger cookie, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. Now this one is a little bit on the cakey side, so it isn't chewy, but it's going to be just perfect for our ice cream sandwiches. We're going to start with 2 3/4 cups of flour. This is all-purpose flour, and when I measure my flour, I spoon it into the measuring cup and then level it off. I don't scoop and level. I spoon it in so my flour doesn't get too compact. So we have 2 3/4 cups of flour. To that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and a full tablespoon of ground ginger, and then 2 teaspoons of baking soda. We'll just whisk those together. Now I'm going to beat 3/4 of a cup of butter with brown sugar. Now this butter is room temperature, it's quite soft. And brown sugar, for the 3/4 of a cup, it is firmly packed brown sugar. So I'm just going to scoop it and then press it in with my hand. It's always good to scrape down the sides of the bowl a few times while you're mixing your cookie batter. Once the brown sugar butter mixture gets noticeably lighter, then you know that you've mixed it enough and we're ready for the next ingredient. Now, one other thing with brown sugar, if you're baking and you find that you've run out of brown sugar, you can always make your own. If you have white sugar and molasses, you're just combining the two to make a brown sugar. Old-fashioned brown sugar is 1 cup of white sugar with a scant 2 tablespoons of molasses, and you can just whisk them together, or you can whir them up in the food processor. And then a light brown sugar is just a cup of white sugar with 1 tablespoon of molasses. Next, we're going to beat in 1 large egg, and this is a room temperature egg. If your egg is cold from the fridge, you can just set it in a bowl of warm water for about 10 minutes and it'll come to room temperature. And finally, to the butter and sugar mixture, we're going to add 1/3 cup of molasses. Now it's time to mix the flour and spices in. So we're going to add it in 3 additions. Remember to keep scraping down the sides of the bowl as you're making this dough. And finally, I'll add the last bit of flour. I add it gradually, or add the flour gradually, just so it doesn't go flying all over the place when I start the mixer. There, the dough is ready. One of the things I love about this recipe is that the dough doesn't have to chill, so we can actually get these cookies in the oven right off the bat. To portion the cookies, I use a cookie scoop. It's a medium cookie scoop, so about 1.5 tablespoons of cookie dough. And each ball is going to be rolled in sugar before it bakes. And then that will give it a bit of a glistening top. And this cookie, as I mentioned earlier, is a classic crackle top ginger cookie. So it will have a really pretty crackly top that's a little bit sparkly. Now these cookies spread a little bit, so I will give them a bit of space on the cookie sheet. All right. So I'll roll them, each one, in the sugar. Now you can also just dip the top in sugar, but I like to roll them. This recipe will make a full 2½ dozen cookies if each cookie is 1½ tablespoons of dough. And into the oven they go for 12 to 15 minutes. Now I've preheated the oven to 350 degrees. And our cookies have been in for 15 minutes. And I think they're done, but I'm just going to check. Yes. So there we go. We'll just let them cool. And once they've cooled to room temperature, then we can make our ice cream sandwiches. These cookies have that perfectly pretty crackly top and a little bit of sparkle from the sugar. Our no-churn ice cream with ginger and crunchy toffee is ready, and I can't wait for you to see just how creamy it is. Oh, it's just so beautiful and perfect for making ice cream sandwiches. Well, that was a pretty big scoop of ice cream for an ice cream sandwich. But nobody's going to complain about having too much ice cream. So let me do one more that has maybe a more reasonable serving of ice cream. There we go. This is a kind of dessert that you're going to want to eat quickly because it is already starting to melt. But there you have it. 2 different recipes that can become 3 different desserts. We've got our no-churn ice cream, delicious on its own. We have our classic ginger crinkle cookies that are yummy too. And then we can put them together into an ice cream sandwich, which is like an old-fashioned treat. Thanks for watching.